The afternoon sunlight slipped through the fogged glass window, casting thin golden streaks across the white-tiled floor. The warmth from the bathtub spread throughout the room, blending with the gentle scent of baby bath soap. Selena Carter sat at an angle beside the porcelain tub, her hands skillfully washing the soft curls of little Isla Holt's hair. Warm water slid through the strands, carrying away tiny white bubbles that trickled down, mingling with the child's giggles. "Good girl, just a little longer." Selena smiled, placing a soft towel over the big round eyes to keep out the soap. Isla gently pushed her hand into the water, splashing small ripples against Selena's arm. The peaceful atmosphere made Selena almost lose track of time. She only knew that ever since the nanny had to leave suddenly, Isla had started running a fever and growing restless. Her cheeks flushed. Selena couldn't bear to see her uncomfortable, so she prepared a warm bath to help cool her down. But hurried footsteps came from the staircase, each pounding against Selena's chest. She looked up, her heart quickening as a deep, cold voice echoed outside the door. "No one touches my child when I'm not here. Especially you." It was Adrian Holt's voice, the master of the house, the man whose presence silenced the entire mansion. A chill ran down Selena's spine, her hands frozen midair. The door flew open. Adrian stood in a dark gray suit, his tie slightly askew, his eyes burning. Beneath the calm veneer of a successful businessman was a storm of fury, like an undercurrent suddenly awakened by a tempest. "Mr. Holt." Selena jumped to her feet, quickly wrapping a towel around Isla and lifting her out of the tub. "What the hell are you doing with my daughter?" His voice was like a blade. Startled, Isla clung tightly to Selena's neck, her lips trembling. "Mama Lena." Holding the child close, Selena tried to keep her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "She's running a fever. I only wanted to cool her down. The water is warm, safe. Give her to me." Adrian stepped forward, snatching Isla from Selena's arms. The little girl burst into tears, her sobs echoing through the bathroom, drowning out the faint water drip still falling. "You're a cleaning staff." Adrian enunciated each word. "Your job is to mop the floors, not bathe my child." Selena tightened her grip on the edge of the towel, her eyes flickering but still speaking. "I didn't mean to cross the line. She needed someone with her, and it was only me then." Adrian didn't respond. He turned away, carrying Isla out of the room. But that look, suspicious and guarded, etched itself deep into Selena's mind, and she knew this would not end here. The Holt mansion darkened with the setting sun. Isla's crying had faded from upstairs into soft hiccups, interspersed with Adrian's heavy footsteps. Selena stood in the small staff room, her hands trembling slightly as she folded her uniform into a bag. The pale blue cotton dress was still damp from the bathwater, leaving a chill clinging to her skin. She tried not to think about Adrian's eyes, earlier eyes that were accusatory but also afraid. The door creaked open. Frank Donovan, the longtime butler with graying hair and knowing eyes, stepped inside. He leaned against the doorframe, his voice low and steady. "Are you all right?" Selena only gave a faint nod. "Mr. Holt has decided. I'm leaving tonight." Frank walked in, closing the door behind him. He looked at her for a long moment, as if weighing something, then spoke quietly. "Do you know why he was so furious?" "It's not because you bathed Isla." Selena looked up, a trace of doubt in her eyes. Frank continued. "It's because you did something he couldn't. You made Isla feel safe. She called you Mama Lena when you walked in, but he didn't hear it, he was too busy shouting." Selena's heart froze. That simple sentence, heavy as stone, made her turn away to hide her emotions. Frank sighed. "Since Mrs. Maria passed, Isla has never called anyone mother again. You managed to make that happen in just a few weeks. To Adrian, that's both a miracle and a reminder of what he's lost." Selena stayed silent, gripping the strap of her bag tighter. She didn't want to leave as a stranger, but she couldn't wait when she was treated like an intruder. Frank placed a warm, steady hand on her shoulder. "I don't know where this will lead, but I know one thing: Isla will miss you. And sometimes, absence makes people realize something far more important than presence." Selena pressed her lips together and gave a slight nod. When Frank left, she sat on the edge of the bed, gazing out the window. Outside, the Monterey Sea cast a cold, gray shadow over the sand. She didn't know that Adrian Holt would be standing at her doorstep again in just a few hours, not as the cold, distant employer, but as a desperate father. Night fell quickly and heavily. The Monterey sky held no moonlight, only thick clouds like a curtain blocking every trace of brightness. Adrian Holt sat at the edge of Isla's bed, his palm pressed to her forehead. Hot. Hotter than in the afternoon. Isla tossed and turned, breathing in short gasps. Her cheeks flushed red. Isla, can you drink a little water? Adrian offered a cup of warm water, but the girl turned away, her eyes blurred with tears. When he took out the thermometer, she whimpered, calling in her fevered haze. Mama Lena. Adrian's fingers clenched. That name struck like a blade, cutting into the place he had locked away. He tried calling the family doctor, but there was no answer. He called the emergency health line, but only left a message. Suddenly, Isla's coughing came in a relentless fit, her small body trembling beneath the blanket. A cold sensation crept along Adrian's spine, helplessness. In that moment, the image of Selena bending down to hold Isla, her soothing voice like waves washing ashore, came flooding back. He shot to his feet, not bothering to grab a coat, only wrapping the blanket around Isla before laying her gently back on the bed. One thought burned through him. Find Selena. The Bentley tore down the coastal roads, the night wind cutting against his skin, the salt air stinging his lips. Adrian hardly blinked, eyes locked on the GPS coordinates, an address pulled from the employee records. An old apartment complex in Oakland, over 40 minutes away. When the car stopped, the building loomed dark, the hallway lights flickering weakly. Adrian pressed the buzzer on the iron gate, but no answer came. He saw a slightly open window with a dim yellow glow spilling out. Selena, he called, his voice almost breaking. It's me, Adrian Holt. Isla needs you. She has a high fever. I don't know what to do. A silhouette appeared behind the curtain. The silence stretched on, as if testing him. Then the window closed. Adrian stood still, heart pounding. 2 minutes later, the front door swung open. Selena stood in a gray hoodie and jeans, a tote bag slung over her shoulder. Her face was bare, but her eyes were sharp and alert. Where is she? She asked. In the car, Adrian replied hoarsely. Selena said nothing more, just strode quickly toward the car. Isla lay in the back seat, her face flushed, eyelids heavy. Selena touched the girl's forehead lightly, then glanced up at Adrian. We need to go now. And this time, you listen to me. Adrian nodded firmly. As the car turned back toward Monterey, the offshore wind began to rise, warning of a restless night ahead. But for Adrian, only one thing mattered now, not losing anyone he loved ever again. The Monterey night sea whispered like the sigh of a secret kept for far too long. When the Bentley stopped at the mansion's gates, the wind carried cold air and the scent of salt into the car's cabin. Selena didn't wait for Adrian to open the door. She rushed out, cradling Isla as if holding a precious treasure, and strode quickly into the house. The warm yellow light from the staircase spilled onto the steps, illuminating Isla's flushed face and Selena's tear-brimmed yet resolute eyes. Selena laid Isla down in the child's bedroom and pulled the blanket to her chest. She retrieved a thermometer from the drawer, took a quick reading, then nodded. Still high, but not dangerous. I'll sponge her down and give her medicine. Do you have warm water and clean towels? Adrian only managed to nod before hurrying to comply. He had never experienced someone giving him orders that he followed so instinctively. Selena sat on the edge of the bed, softly humming a lullaby that carried the rhythm of the sea. Her hand moved slowly with the warm towel, wiping along Isla's forehead, the back of her neck, then down to her small hands. Isla shivered slightly but soon relaxed, her eyelids growing heavy. When the girl finally drifted into a deep sleep, Selena stood and gently draped a light blanket over her. She did not look at Adrian as she stepped out of the room. He followed her into the kitchen, where only the refrigerator's hum filled the air. Selena poured herself a glass of water, took a sip, and set it on the table. Adrian stood across from her, both hands braced against the counter. His voice was low and deliberate, as if searching for each word. I was wrong. Selena raised her eyes but didn't answer. It's not that you crossed a line, he continued. I built the walls too high. I thought I was protecting her, but pushing her away from the one person who could help her tonight. Selena crossed her arms, her gaze steady but unyielding. I only did what needed to be done, but I'm not here to be treated like an intruder. Adrian nodded slowly, his eyes lowering as though accepting a verdict. If you stay, I promise that will never happen again. You're not just staff, you're someone Isla trusts. And I need to trust you too. A silence stretched tight as a drawn string. Then Selena exhaled lightly and replied, short and firm. I'll stay. But not for you, for Isla. Adrian's lips curved into a faint smile, part relief, part gratitude. Outside, the waves struck the rocky shore in steady rhythm. Inside Adrian's heart, something heavy loosened at last, the weight he had carried for 2 years, since the day he lost Maria. The first days after Selena Carter stayed at the Holt mansion following Isla's fevered night passed quietly. Isla grew healthier, her giggles once again echoing through the hallways. Adrian grew accustomed to seeing Selena in the kitchen in the mornings, in the garden in the afternoons, and beside Isla's bed each night. But not everyone in the house welcomed her presence. On Thursday afternoon, as Selena carried a laundry basket down to the basement, she caught faint whispers coming from the staff quarters. Who does she think she is? From cleaning staff to special caretaker. She sure knows how to win the boss's favor. The voice belonged to Marcia, the upstairs maid, well known as a confidant of Adrian's mother. Another mocking laugh responded, just wait. She won't last. People like her always show their true colors. Selena walked past without a word, but a chill rippled down her spine. She knew gossip like this traveled faster than the Monterey sea wind. That evening, when Adrian returned from a meeting, Frank Donovan met him at the door, speaking in a low tone. You need to know this. Someone in the house is speaking ill of Selena, and the rumors have already spread outside. Some former staff claim she's using Isla's affection to secure her position. Adrian froze mid-step, his hand tightening around his briefcase handle. Who? Frank answered slowly. Marcia started it, but now everyone knows. If you don't address it, this will reach your mother in several days. Adrian lifted his head, his gaze turning sharp. Gather all the staff in the living room. When everyone had assembled, Adrian stood in the center, the overhead light casting a stark glow on his black suit, adding weight to the atmosphere. Selena stood toward the back, silent, but with her chin lifted. Adrian's eyes swept over the group. From today, Selena Carter is not just an employee of the Holt household. Isla's official caregiver has full authority to decide what's best for her when I'm away. If anyone finds this arrangement unacceptable, you can leave this house tonight. The room fell into silence. Marcia pressed her lips together, eyes simmering with resentment, but said nothing. Frank gave a slight nod, breaking the quiet. I fully support this decision. Adrian didn't look at Selena as the meeting ended, but an unspoken pledge had been sealed within him. As Selena stepped out of the living room, she could feel the storm inside the house had not yet passed. But she also knew this time she wasn't standing alone. On Saturday morning, a thin layer of clouds covered the Monterey sky, and soft light streamed in through the tall glass windows of the Holt mansion. Selena was sitting on the living room rug with Isla, stacking colorful wooden blocks, when the sound of a luxury car engine came from the front gate. Frank appeared at the doorway, his voice low. Mrs. Eleanor Holt is here. Selena's hands froze mid-movement, a ripple of unease stirring in her chest like the swell before a storm. The heavy wooden door opened, and Eleanor stepped inside, poised and elegant in a cream evening dress, a string of pearls glinting at her neck, her gaze sharp as a finely honed blade. That gaze landed on Selena for barely a second, long enough to send a clear message. I know who you are, and I don't like it. Eleanor's smile was polite, but her voice was calm. You must be Selena Carter. Selena rose to her feet, moving gently yet firmly. And you must be the one who taught your son to put fear above kindness. For a flicker of a moment, Eleanor's smile faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. She glanced around the room, speaking slowly. I'd like to speak to Adrian in private. Selena looked toward the staircase where Adrian had just descended, his expression slightly tense. He gave her a slight nod, signaling her to step away. But as Selena turned, she didn't feel like she was retreating, only making room for a different battle. Inside the study, Eleanor stood tall, hands clasped together. What exactly are your intentions with her? Adrian exhaled sharply. Mother, Selena has saved Isla. More than once. She needs her. Eleanor crossed her arms, her tone sharper. Do you know what people are saying out there? A widowed billionaire bringing a cleaner into the house, letting her bathe, feed, and put his child to bed. You're turning your father's legacy into a joke. Adrian leaned forward, his eyes darkening. If that legacy demands sacrificing my daughter's happiness, it's not worth keeping. Eleanor was silent for a few seconds before speaking slowly. Son, life is not as soft as you think. Legacy doesn't bend for emotions. It's preserved through discipline and distance. Adrian replied flatly, my legacy will be preserved by truth. And the truth is, Isla loves Selena. When the door opened, Selena was standing in the hallway. Eleanor's gaze swept over her once more, this time with a remark as light as a breeze yet cold enough to sting to the bone. You will never be part of this family. Selena smiled faintly in return. Fortunately, that's no longer yours to decide. Then, the sound of Isla's footsteps echoed, followed by the familiar call, Mama, Lena. The little girl ran straight to Selena, wrapping her arms tightly around her without glancing at her grandmother. Eleanor hesitated briefly, then turned and walked away. The great door closed behind her, leaving only the warm sound of a child who had already chosen where she belonged. 2 days after the confrontation with Eleanor, Adrian Holt sat alone in his study, sunlight from the large window falling across the walnut desk. On his laptop screen was the draft press release he had just finalized. Selena Carter is an important part of the Holt family. She is Isla's official caregiver, and I trust her completely. He hit send. The decision was made. No more hiding. No more letting others control the narrative. That afternoon, the news exploded across entertainment outlets and social media. Photos of Selena holding Isla in the garden, Selena sitting beside Adrian at a small cafe, and even shots of her leaving a supermarket with grocery bags are all over the internet. Headlines zeroed in on the maid who captured the heart of the widowed billionaire. The reactions split sharply. Some praised the courage, others mocked and cast suspicion. Selena read the words on her phone screen, her chest heavy. In the quiet kitchen, she tried to keep her hands steady as she poured water, but the sudden ring of the doorbell startled her. Frank stepped in, his expression grave. You got this in the mailbox. A white envelope. No return address. Selena opened it to find a sheet of paper with messy red ink scrawl. You're not who they think you are. I know your past. And I'll tell them. Her whole body went cold. Her breath sank like she'd just plunged to the ocean floor. That night, Adrian found Selena on the porch, gripping the paper tightly. He approached, his eyes flashing when he read its contents. Who sent this? Selena swallowed hard, her voice low. I know. Leon Vargas. He used to be a loan shark in Pittsburgh. I've been running from him for years. Adrian was silent for a few moments before asking, why? Selena turned away, gazing out at the dark sea. My brother got tangled in his debt. I borrowed to save him, but the terms he gave, I couldn't accept. I ran, changed my name, and went into hiding. And now, he's found me. Adrian stepped closer, placing a firm hand on her shoulder, his voice resolute. If he thinks he can drive you out of here with threats, he's wrong. You're not going anywhere. Selena looked at him, her eyes a mix of gratitude and unease. In the darkness, the sound of waves crashing against the shore matched the quickening rhythm of both their hearts. They both knew the real storm was still on its way. The Monterey night seemed to swallow the entire Holt estate. Sea winds whistled through the porch columns, and dark clouds smothered the moon, casting the vast grounds into a cold gray haze. Selena had just tucked Isla into bed, pulling the blanket up to her chest, when the lullaby from the small speaker abruptly cut off. At the exact moment, every light in the house went out. There was no electricity or hum of the air conditioning, only a thick, suffocating silence. Downstairs, Adrian set his pen down and shot to his feet. He opened a drawer, grabbed a flashlight, and strode into the hallway. Frank Donovan appeared at the top of the stairs, his voice low but urgent. This isn't a normal outage. The backup generator's been disabled. Someone did this on purpose. The sound of a car engine rumbled from the side of the house. Then bang, a heavy metallic crash against the fence. Adrian didn't need to guess. Leon Vargas. He turned to Selena, his voice firm and commanding. Go to the wine cellar. Lock it from the inside. Only open if you hear my voice, or Frank's. Selena didn't argue. She scooped up the drowsy Isla, holding her tightly to her chest, and hurried down the service stairs. Just before closing the cellar door, she heard Adrian's footsteps approaching the back entrance. Outside, the rain began to pour. Adrian stepped into the yard, flashlight sweeping across the fence line. A hooded figure, broad-shouldered, emerged from the shadows. In the flickering beam, Leon Vargas came into focus, older now, streaks of gray in his hair, but the same glint of malice in his eyes. I only want her, Holt. Hand her over, and I'll leave. Adrian tightened his grip on the baton in his hand. You're not touching Selena. Leon gave a low, raspy laugh, the sound of years of cigarette smoke. You think I'm afraid of you? Tonight, I'm taking back what's mine. He lunged first, swinging a metal bar. Adrian dodged, baton cracking hard across Leon's shoulder. They grappled in the rain, the clash of metal ringing through the night. Frank burst in from the side garden, tackling Leon to the ground. But the man thrashed violently, his eyes darting as if searching for another target. The wail of police sirens grew closer, the flashing blue and red lights slicing through the rain. Leon gave one last guttural snarl before being handcuffed and dragged away, water dripping from his matted gray hair. When the lights in the house finally flickered back on, Selena opened the wine cellar door. Isla was still curled in her arms, fast asleep, but with a slight furrow between her brows. Adrian approached, a smear of blood at the corner of his mouth, but his gaze was softer now. Selena watched Leon's figure being pushed into the police car and whispered, "He thought he could make me run again." But no. Adrian placed a steady hand on her shoulder, and this time, he's not coming back. Outside, the waves crashed hard against the rocky shore, but inside the house, a new kind of peace had begun to take root. A month after the stormy night, spring had arrived in Monterey, draping the coastal roads in a soft golden sunlight like honey. The Holt mansion felt warmer, not just because of the season, but because of the new atmosphere shared by the three people living within its walls. On Saturday morning, Selena Carter wore a simple navy blue dress, standing in the dressing room and gazing at herself in the mirror. She gripped a note in her hand, its lines slightly shaky from being written late at night. Today, she would be a guest speaker at the Women Rising event, a gathering of hundreds of women who had endured loss, violence, or prejudice. Adrian stepped inside without knocking, but his eyes were gentle. Ready? Selena gave a faint smile. If I waited until I was ready, I'd never do it. Isla appeared in the doorway, wearing a fluffy white dress and clutching her stuffed bunny. Mama Lena, I will sit in the front row and clap loudly. Selena knelt, hugging the little girl tightly. That's all the courage I need. The hall was vast, with golden lights pouring over rows of filled seats. Around 300 people, ranging from silver-haired women to young women in their 20s, fell silent as the host announced, "Please welcome Selena Carter." Applause rose, not deafening, but warm. Selena walked out, her heels making soft clicks on the wooden floor. She placed her note on the podium and took a deep breath. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be standing here, I would have laughed. I didn't think I had anything worth sharing. I only knew how to work and live quietly. But then, a 2-year-old girl changed everything. A soft MHM of agreement came from the middle rows. I spent most of my life running from a past I thought would define me forever. I changed my name and home, and learned not to let anyone close, until I met Isla Holt. A child who wasn't afraid to reach out when she needed someone. She taught me that silence isn't safety, and hiding isn't healing. Selena set the paper aside, her voice steadying. Today, I am a mother not by birth, but by choice. I am a man's partner who has learned to open his heart again, and I am myself, without hiding, without asking for permission to exist. The room was utterly still for a heartbeat. Then applause surged, mingled with shouts of bravo, and the soft sound of a few muffled sobs. When she stepped down, Selena saw Adrian waiting at the wings, Isla in his arms, both faces glowing. "Mama Lena, I told you I clapped the loudest." Selena laughed, embracing them both. In that moment, she knew she had just stepped through the final door of her past. That afternoon, Monterey's sunlight stretched across the white sand beaches, reflecting in golden ribbons. In the back garden of the Holt mansion, the tulips Isla and Selena had planted in the winter had begun to bloom, red and yellow petals swaying gently in the ocean breeze. Selena sat on a wooden chair beneath the trellis, Isla playing with her stuffed bunny beside her. Adrian walked over carrying a tray of tea, setting it before her. "I just finished a meeting with the executive board," he said, his voice as light as the sea air. "I'm handing over some of my management duties so I can spend more time at home. With you. With Isla." Selena looked up, her eyes widening slightly. "Are you sure? This is your family's company." Adrian smiled. "My family isn't just a name on paper anymore. It's right here." Isla looked up, not fully understanding but smiling anyway. "Mama Lena is my family." Selena gently squeezed the little hand, feeling its warmth seep into hers. After Isla had fallen asleep that evening, Adrian handed Selena a folder. "I want to start the Still Blooming Foundation to help women who are trying to rise again after violence, loss, or prejudice. It will carry your mark." Selena opened the folder to find detailed plans, a list of advisors, and a simple logo, a flower blooming between the stone's cracks. She touched the page lightly, her voice softening. "You know, I used to think my life was nothing but fractures. But maybe those cracks were how the light got in." Adrian took her hand, his gaze unwavering. "I want the whole world to see that." The foundation's launch occurred a month later in the mansion's garden. No swarming reporters, no blinding camera flashes, only people who truly believed in its mission. Selena stood on a small platform beside Adrian and Isla, her voice clear and warm. "Still, blooming doesn't mean you've never had broken petals. It means that despite everything, you still choose to grow." Applause rose around her. Isla ran forward and pressed a freshly picked yellow tulip into Selena's hand. "For Mama Lena. So you remember you're always blooming." Selena embraced her, and Adrian stepped forward to wrap his arm around them both. The three stood beneath the setting sun, the tulips behind them swaying in agreement. Selena knew this was no longer a temporary refuge at that moment. This was home. And their new chapter had only just begun.